Yes. Welcome to Bhakti. So we are glad that you agreed to this, and we have you in the webinar FM series. So I would like to take this opportunity and introduce Dr. Bhakti Devi. Somebody's, yeah, there's background noise coming.
Yeah, we should mute all.
Yes, if others can go on mute, please. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Dr. Bhakti Devi is a global expert on decentralized water systems. She's currently running 2 community-based integrated urban water cycle management projects in Bangalore. She has extensive work experience in Sydney. She was working in the water sector for a long time there. But in 2018, she relocated to India, and she has water impact ventures presently, which we would explain further. That's called Urban Water Doctor. And I would also like to tell her about her work in Sydney. So as a manager water strategy from 2009 to 13, she was working as a city strategy and design division in the City of Sydney Council, where she developed, executed, and managed a citywide strategy to deliver integrated, sustainable water management and water-sensitive urban design initiatives. She was a strategist. As a strategist, she worked from till 2018 for the Livable City Solutions Division in Sydney Water, and where she was leading around a $15 million system blueprint program, developing 30-year and 5-year capital investment plans. She has developed frameworks and process for building capacity of project teams, and she has actively influenced the organizations. And with her passion for water and for the decentralized water, she is back in India and doing very extensively. She's working on decentralized water management. She is running these integrated urban water cycle management programs. They are called the Livable Out Layouts and Urban Water Doctor. She has developed, designed, and delivered training packages in CDD societies and worked on urban lake rejuvenation, mainly in Bangalore. So, and she has got extensive experience in entrepreneurial work. So, continuing with our yesterday's program on entrepreneurship. So, this would be a very specific thing on water. So, what are the opportunities as an entrepreneur in the water sector? So, I welcome Dr. Bhakti Devi, and it's a pleasure that we have you here. So, along with this, we have in the audience, we have our students from the 2nd semester and the 4th semester, and there are others from CEPT University who are on being live streamed. So we will have a question answer session at the end. So, and you can also use your chat facility to post your questions. Yes. Yes, Dr. Bhakti. We can start your presentation.
I think she's muted. Dr. Bhakti, you are muted. We can't hear you.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, Dr. Shelley, for the intro, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be addressing the young people, especially from this premier institute that you are. Because there are not many institutes focused on urban management. So it's a really delightful opportunity. And thank you, Dr. Gayatri, for this opportunity to, to be able to address and share what I'm doing and what others could be joining in this movement, I call it. So I think, should I go to the present mode, and I will use my presentation. So
yes.
Sorry. Okay, so what I have, as you know, I've titled it as Role of Decentralized Water Management in Sustainable Urban Water Future. The title is suggesting that as we move forward from the current water crisis situation, the decentralized water is the way to do it if we want a sustainable water future. So that's the implication of the title. And the way I've organized my presentation is I will initially touch on and dwell on why do we, why is it that decentralized water is the way to go? I want to elaborate on that. Then after that, I will show you by example how you can drive decentralized water at a city level through policy and planning instruments. Then I will show some examples of what it means when you start embedding these principles of decentralized water within an urban design. What does that mean, and what are the principles that that guide this type of design? So, this is a very like a preliminary introduction and orientation, I would say, to decentralized water, which is a very, very critical topic for today's urban water crisis. So I wanted to start by, in order to explain why decentralized water is the way to go, it is extremely important that we really understand what has been the problem. And why do we assume that it's a problem? Because we are right now able to see some stark facts and figures on the ground related to water, which are not very good. And we know that we are in a crisis situation. So the idea is to understand what these stark reality is in facts and figures, and then reflect on what could be, how has the current system, because we already have a 100-plus-year-old system of water management. So what has been the role of that system in that we have landed in this situation? It's very important to dwell on it, to reflect on it, so that as we move forward and if identify a solution, we want to make sure we are not repeating the lessons we could learn from the current system, by properly reflecting. So let's start with the facts and figures on the ground. So the first is, it is the fact that 54% of currently India faces high to extremely high water stress. All the red area you see on the map is water stress, high to extremely high, and the brown and yellow are also water stress, but it's just relatively less. But as you can see, it's more than 50%, and it's growing. This percentage is only growing year by year. Another stark facts and figure, if you look at this chart is showing for some of the cities that are picked from India, from mega cities to smaller cities, that we have charted the demand of water and what the water is available to supply in each city. So if I can maybe ask you to put on chat, what do you observe? What's the key observation you make of this chart? Have a look at this chart, and if you can put down on chat, what do you notice something striking about the chart? So where will I be able to, I'm just checking to see the chat. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've opened the chat window. So I request the students to, are you able to see the responses, Professor Shelley? Because I don't know where, oh yeah, chat is here.
On the top right.
Yeah.
The students have been writing on chat. You just need to read.
Okay, because I can't see it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'll just read out few.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Give me
So they are
help.
writing supply is deficient. The demand is more than supply.
Okay.
One is writing we are not able to meet the demand.
Uh-huh.
Another, in each city, demand for water is more than supply.
Yeah.
Demand is always greater.
Right.
Another response, supply can never fulfill demand.
Right.
Demand is more.
Okay.
Crisis in more in megacities. Supply is
Uh-huh.
more than demand in cities. Demand keeps growing. So that's the
Yes.
response.
Very nice. So, what basically I wanted you to observe is that it is a story of every single city that I'm just trying to get back to the presentation. So, I have to use share screen. Now, can you see? But it's very small. Are you able to see the screen, the presentation? I don't know why the present mode is not showing.
No, we can't see the presentation. You'll have to go back to present now and
Yeah, but
present it.
that menu.
Go down, take the cursor to the lower end of the screen.
Yeah, there's no menu on the lower end. 1 minute. I don't know why it's gone to this mode.
When you click on your profile, then it's on the right side. It is present now.
Yeah, I know. Normally it is, but it's gone to some other full screen.
No, you take your cursor to the lower end and it will pop up. The band will come up. Yeah.
I have been holding it, but nothing is. And there's 3 dots have gone up, and it shows me share screen. Maybe I'll use the share screen. I have no option. So as long as you can see it, can you see it?
No, we can't.
No, you can't. Okay. Yes, I'm back. I think I'm back. 1 minute. No. Oh yeah, I think I got it. I got back to the screen. Sorry. Okay, I'm okay now. So that's right. So what is very typical, and it is a predictable consequence that the every city is always catching up with the demand, and the supply is always less. And as the city is bigger, the gap is bigger. And we'll come back to why is that the case. Okay, let's first understand how the problem is manifesting itself. So water stress. Is it on this? Is that okay? Anything?
Yeah, it's all fine.
Yep. So every city has got this shortage. Then this is another graph which is showing that in a city, if there is a demand, the black bar is the demand, and the red bar is showing that if every property in that city was to introduce water saving measures, what would its real demand be? So as you can see, it is every city has embedded water inefficiency and water wastage practice, because of which the demand is much higher than it could be. And this is not even talking about trying to find new water. It is simply a matter of changing the practices to make sure we are using the water that we already have in a more efficient and less wasteful way, and making more water available for the future or for another set of population. So this is again a reality on the ground we see as of now. The other reality we see is that groundwater is continuously being depleted, as over the years we have gone deeper and deeper, and that's also running out. The reserves are running out. And the other interrelated reality that's happening on the ground is an example where Bangalore, this is a satellite view heat map of, showing the vegetated area within Bangalore over time. So in 73, we had, look at the amount of tree cover and green cover we had, and look at it, how it's gone in 2017 and in 2020. So the green cover has been disappearing. And this is a story with all cities, by the way. It is not restricted to Bangalore, although it just depends on, in what phase they are. Bangalore happens to be on the front, but every city is going through these stark realities. So we have understood what's happened on the ground. And another reality is that more than 100 million people live in areas of poor water quality, as in there's lots of polluted water. The quantity of polluted water is growing. And that could be related to this, there's another report from the World Bank which says that, the water, that the green bar is called the utilizable water. Basically, it is the water that is there, but it can't be, it has a potential to be utilized, but it can't because of the pollution level. And so that is another reality. And that's related to the fact that the sewage conveyance and treatment infrastructure is way below what we really need. And therefore, what happens is the untreated sewage ends up in the local water body, and therefore we have a lot of polluted water around us. So, as I said, we are first talking about the ground realities. Now comes the time for reflection. So what we want to think about is, what is it about the current system? What is it about the current system that may have contributed to the water wasting behavior that we first saw in the first graph, the shortage between demand and supply? Yes, there is shortage of supply, but the demand itself is a wasteful demand. What could be the contribution of the current system? What could be the current? How has the current system contributed to driving people to deplete groundwater? How has the current water system contributed to the poor water quality and the polluted water we see everywhere around? So this is something to reflect on before we even talk about the solution. Okay, and so that is what I want to do as we go forward. But before I reveal to you my answers, I would like you to share with me in a very pointed way that think about what is the feature of the current system that is directly linked to that kind of outcome. What has led to that outcome? For example, let's start with wastage. People having wasteful practice or inefficient practice of using water. So let's focus on that. So can you put on the chat, what could be the reason, what is the feature of the current system that has could have contributed to that? So, Professor Shelley, I'll leave it to you to read out the replies, because when I switch screens, it gets a bit...
Okay. Yes. So Ayushi writes that there is lack of water tax. Responsibility lies entirely with government and not the people.
Okay.
Pratha writes free water.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Users not charged as per usage.
Okay.
Siddharth, low sense of responsibility for using this resource since it's cheap.
Yes. Okay. Very nice. Great. So, yes, it is definitely linked to the fact that, there is no accountability of water. And some of the things that you mentioned about, people don't have that sense of responsibility. And I will talk about it. So let's think about, okay, this is great. So you reflected on the problem with the current system that leads to the wastage. What about the second thing about the groundwater or the shortage? There's a constant shortage, between supply and demand. There is always a shortage. And what could be the current water systems feature that's contributing to that? Any answers, Professor Shelley?
Yeah, Siddharth writes that there is a lower recharge rate.
Right.
Monica writes lack of recharge wells of storm water.
Okay.
Mithika, old infrastructure and leakage.
Okay, very nice.
Ayushi, surface water doesn't get a chance to recharge groundwater due to
Uh-huh.
more impervious surfaces.
Very nice.
Pratha,
Okay.
cementing of grounds for development.
Mm-hmm.
Pooja, lack of green infrastructure.
Okay, great. So the most of the problems you've identified, they have contributed, of course, but they're more on the realm of the urban, not the water infrastructure, but something to do with the way the urban forms are. They create more hard surfaces, so therefore the recharging doesn't happen. That's linked to the groundwater getting depleted. So that's good. And, we will talk also about what is it about the water system that has contributed. The third thing I want you to, lastly, before I share my, reflections, is about the whole thing about polluted water on the rise, compared to, apart from the fact that sewage infrastructure is not sufficient, as I mentioned, but apart from that reason, what is it about the current system that leads to a lot of polluted water?
Yes, so the responses coming are urbanization.
Mhm.
Pooja says lack of awareness about the overall system. Siddharth, OD and
Mhm.
unplanned disposal of wastewater. Soham,
Yep.
no tax on wastewater generation. Uh,
Mhm.
then there are Ayushi, industrial effluents and eutrophication.
Yep.
Lack of treatment of wastewater, factory waste, especially Shambhavi. Pratha says
Mhm.
illegal disposal of waste. Mithika, industrial discharge. Karanbir,
Yes.
no one-site use, reuse. No on-site reuse.
Uh-huh.
Vidya, no control on wastewater disposal from industries.
Right.
Anshul, leakage in water supply lines.
Okay, great. I think you all have, kind of tried to point out some of these things, which is fantastic. So thank you very much, all of you. So now the way I have tried to summarize these features, and which you'll be able to see your reasons falling within those categories, is that there are three key features of the current system, I feel. And when we are talking about the water system, initially we are talking about the larger system that are managed by the government agency. Okay, because that is also what the government does, is always reflected by the people, or the people doing what people do is also reflected by the government. So when the industry is discharging polluted water, it is a reflection of what the government itself is doing, the department is doing, and vice versa. The way we behave, government also behaves the same way, the agencies also behave the same way. So we are a reflection of one another. So that's why it's important to understand things in a way that it's not about pointing fingers, but it is also about reflection on how we are as a community and how we think about these things as a community. So the first thing that the current water system does is it insulates the water users, the way it is designed, because as you know that most of us don't really know where the water comes from, exactly how much do we use, where does the water go after we use it, exactly where does it go, what happens to it. Most people are not aware, simply because it is not that they don't want to know, it is because the way the system is designed. The system is designed for you to not know. Everything is under the ground. You don't need to worry about anything. All you need to do is open the tap and that's it. So this is the way the water system, when I say water, remember, we are not only talking about water supply. Water, sewage is water too. Stormwater is water too. Rainwater is water too. So any type of water management comes under the water system in the definition that I'm talking. So what I'm saying is the current way sewage is managed, or the water supply is managed, or the stormwater is managed, we don't as water users need to know anything, simply because it is designed for our convenience. It is not designed to educate us, or it is not designed in a way that that we really get to know about it. So therefore the current system insulates the users, and as soon as you've insulated the user, you become conditioned and the water user has been lulled into complete ignorance, and they have been rendered water illiterate and water unaccountable. And that immediately then reflects on what the kind of things you have pointed out, people being unaccountable, people don't have a sense of responsibility, there's a, lack of awareness, people don't want to pay, they only pay what, they don't pay what they actually use. So these things are linked, but the fundamental problem is they have been rendered illiterate by the system. So that's very important to acknowledge. So we are trying to understand and acknowledge these problems so that as we go forward, we don't repeat them and we find a way to correct them, in fact. So that is number one. The second feature of the current system is that it is always focused on increasing the supply, and completely ignores of managing the demand. So what do I mean by that is, so whenever the population grows, as every city does, there is always a tendency to find a new source of supply to meet the population growth. Okay, so rather than thinking that, okay, that is important, to find a new supply is important, but let us understand the current demand. Is it really optimal? As I showed in the first graph, that actually there's no, there's no city council which, or the water utility pays attention to how much of it is actually inefficient. So what is it that we can do in order to reduce the demand? It is very much like money. Water and money management are very similar. So if you are feeling shortage of money for some reason, one of the things you would do is to borrow money and earn more money. But then it is also important to check your expenses and see where you may be, spending, which spending can be curtailed or made more efficient. So that is also a way to manage money shortage. So whenever we manage a shortage, we focus largely on supply, and the same thing is reflected by people also. So once the water system, the water utilities are doing the same, but think about what we do at an apartment building level. When we run out of water or when we're feeling a shortage, we immediately find, where can I drill the next well? One well has dried and then we look for another well, right? And if that is also not enough, then you buy tanker water. So you're always looking at, where can I get my next water from? We never look at, okay, how as a community of the apartment, we are actually using, is our water use efficient? Have we used it wisely? Is there room to reduce the demand? Because as soon as you reduce the demand, the shortage also reduces. And that is a very important mindset change all of us as water users have to bring about. And of course, the agencies also have to think about that. So that is a second problem with the current system. And when I say current system, we should include ourselves in what role are we playing in the current system? How are we thinking? What is our mindset? Our mindset is also very similar, that we don't focus on managing the demand. We give priority to increasing the supply. And the reality is 40 to 50% of the water in the system is actually can be saved by improving the wastage and improving by reducing the leakage. So this is very important. New water, creating new water by improving your the way you use water. The third feature is that as you know, the current system, the way it operates is a very linear way. Why is it linear? Because how does it work? It extracts water from a source remotely located, which we never get to see. The water is extracted. It is then supplied for use. And then once it's used, it is taken away and dumped. So it's called extract, use, dump, extract, use, dump. And that is a linear process. And of course, when you keep doing it over the years, so whenever the population rises, a new supply is extracted, okay, or a new well is built. When it comes to individuals, we also do the same. We find a well, we keep extracting, using, and dumping the water. We extract, use, dump. And then as the population, we keep doing that until a point where for the same water, multiple cities or multiple states are fighting over it, because you have depleted the fresh water source and you increase the polluted water. So this is where the polluted water on the rise comes from. So the fundamental cause whatever you pointed out is very true. But the fundamental problem is whether it's industry, whether it is apartment building, whether it is a city water utility, all of us are on a linear system. We are using a linear system which can be predicted to run out of date. It is bound to expire, it is bound to run, it is bound to deplete your water resource. It is no surprise that the water will run out and more polluted water will be around us. So this is the three key features which we have to understand, that acknowledge as we move forward. So what is the way forward? So now you are in a better position to know what is the way forward by making sure that you understood and you acknowledge the past. You acknowledge the problems with the past. So as we move forward, we want to check that are we making sure we don't repeat that mistake. So what is the way forward? So let us now look at it in a reverse way. If we correct all the mistakes that I pointed out, the fundamental problems, the three fundamental problems, then we have a clue to how do we move forward. So that is what I've listed here. So if we said that the current system makes us illiterate and makes us unaccountable because it insulates us. So what we need to do as we go forward is we need to make sure water users are taking charge and informing themselves of how does water work within a catchment. What is the best way to manage and become literate. And also we start measuring how much water are we using? How much do we really need? Can we do with less? All this is called water accountability. And as water users, we need to become literate and accountable about our own system. We don't have to worry about the entire city, but at least about the surrounding where we live. And that is very important, the first thing. The second thing we need to do, again, taking clue from the past, is that we must make sure that the water users, we bring the focus back onto managing and reducing demand as a priority over finding a new supply. So this is done by fixing inefficiencies, of course. So that is number two. And number three is, if we are in a current position because of the system being linear, the system being an extract, use, dump system, we have to create local, small, circular systems. And circular systems means we all have learned about water when we were in school, that it is like a water cycle. We all have learned about water cycle. I want to ask a question here that, think about that water cycle for a moment and tell me what is a key essence or key lesson you draw out of that water cycle. The fact that, water can move between and above land in different forms, and it kind of, transitions between various things. So, and it has been happening over a million years. It has been, doing that for a long, long time. So what does it tell you about water? So I just want some answers to that question. So think about the water cycle, and because when we learned the water cycle in school, nobody actually pointed out what was the point of that water cycle, understanding water cycle. What does it tell you? What is the quality of water that is revealed in that water cycle that we learned? A unique quality of water.
Shambhavi says water can be reused.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that is. Yep. Please continue. I'll talk about it.
Renewable resources. Recycle.
Yeah.
Yes, those are the responses coming.
So what the best way to say is that renewable is so basically water has got a feature, a quality that it can be renewed, it can be recovered. You can bring it back to its original state, fresh state, right? So that is the unique quality of water. And what we have not done in our current system, we have not leveraged it. What that means is we have not taken advantage of that feature, which the nature does. Nature actually uses the same water over and over again. But what we did when we built the cities is we just extract, use, dumped. We didn't realize that we could actually recover the water and not dump it, right? So it's as simple as that. And that when you start recognizing that and close the loop or bring back the water in a circular way, that is why it's called a circular system. And the reason the smaller, it can be done at a small scale, it can be done at a big scale. But because we want these circular systems to be created by water users, we want to keep it small so that it's manageable by the local people. And that will be the opposite of a large, unsustainable linear system. Because when you start creating a small, local circular system, it actually is, or it will create a water abundance forever. It is not something that will die once the population or once the city grows. The linear system tends to expire because it can no longer meet the demand. So what has happened in the cities is when the linear system became short of meeting, the city started to tell the citizens to say that we are going to restrict your water supply. And that is what led people to start drilling wells to supplement the shortage that the piped water couldn't meet. And they also followed the same linear way of extracting without recharging. And now we are in a situation in Chennai and Bangalore where we have run out of the groundwater as well. And that will be the story of every city if they continue to do that. So these are the three things we have to keep in mind of any solution going forward. And the decentralized water is actually about creating a system which actually is guided by these three principles. That it is created. So one more thing we want to keep thinking is, we know the clue to the solution. These three things are the clue. But we also want to keep thinking, how can we do it at scale? Like we want to do it all over the cities in India. How do we do it at scale, and how do we do it with speed? Because it's getting more and more critical. So that is something we have to keep reflecting on and find ways to make it scalable and with speed. So now we can say we are in a position to actually define decentralized water management. So given that we know what should be the key features, so the decentralized water management is defined as local water. So we are focusing on the local water, not water from some remote area, some remote catchment, but water that is available locally is managed by local water users for the local water users, for the use of local water users, right? So when we say local water, what do we mean? It could mean that water we are already being supplied with, that is, can be included in that, because we are talking about building on current system and kind of moving forward, transitioning from the linear system to the circular system. So we will include water that's already being supplied. We will include rainwater that comes in that local area. We include stormwater, the water that runs off after the rain has fallen on the catchment. We include sewage, we include grey water. Everything is coming under the definition of local water, because ultimately they are all just water. Okay, that's something important to remember. And when you take this decentralized water management approach, it will inevitably lead to significant reduction and even elimination of importing of water. The pipe supply, actually you may not need it. If you did it well at your local area, then your aim should be to not rely and completely get off it if possible. And many times it's possible, if not, but significant reduction on reliance on that water is possible. And also it leads to local water self-sufficiency forever. So it's not like by date that, after this date, it will run out, but it actually creates a perpetual abundance of water when you follow that principle and create that system. So now the question is, this is all good in theory that, we have defined what a decentralized water is and, what are the outcomes we can expect from it. So who should be doing it, right? What is the role? Who are the key players? So because it's local water we are talking about, my experience working with municipality as well as with water utility, and also being part of a very global, there's a global think tank group on decentralized and integrated water, which suggests that the key players for making this happen are water user groups. When I say water user groups, it could be residential groups, it could be businesses, it could be industries, all the private groups, they're all using water in one way or the other. So the water user groups and the urban local bodies are the key players. If they work together, right, then they can transform the entire water status of that locality, of the city, of that particular town, whatever, from where they come from. So that is very important to know that, that is why the focus of my work since I moved to back to India has been to engage with water user groups initially. And also I do, indirectly engage with urban local bodies through the NGOs who are working with urban local bodies, right? But we have to, between the two, between water user groups and urban local bodies, water user groups are even more, can also do things within their own neighborhood, if not entire city. So that's why we want to keep this in mind and then think about how that can be done. So I just want to, before I move on to what is possible by the individual water user groups and the urban local bodies, I want to give you some guiding principles, which is what differentiates water from the centralized system. So because we only talked about decentralized in the form of its key features, that it will involve the users, it will be circular in feature system, and also it will be focused on managing demand as a priority. So those are the key things. But in terms of the principles that can make, in order to make a decentralized water, what kind of thinking is needed? So we have to keep in mind that all types of water has to be looked upon as a water resource. You do not, unlike the centralized system, the current system, you don't differentiate, you create a new, one department for water supply, another department for sewage, another department for stormwater, and let them operate in silos. No, because we look at water as one, whether it is any water within that area has to be looked at as one water. The second thing that guides the development of a decentralized water is the fact that we always look at water demand also. Is it a potable demand or is it a non-potable demand? What that means is that we want to create water fit for purpose. We do not have to produce water that is all of the drinking, water quality, because we know that not every demand of water requires the water to be as high quality as drinking water, which is potable quality. So we want to try and differentiate the demand between potable and non-potable, because as soon as you start doing that, the solutions will appear to you. Like the solutions, more solutions will be, become visible and, worth exploring. Then the third thing is to keep in mind that the water and catchment is the land area from where the water, rainwater, drains. That catchment is your basic planning unit, because it tells you how much water is received by nature, and then that is your starting point. In order to plan a city or a development, whether it's a private development, whether it's a public development, we have to start looking at it as a catchment and then design and plan anything in that catchment by keeping water as a center. That is, so how is the water going to flow? How are we going to capture the water? And that will drive the design of the catchment or the urban form that is going to be designed in that catchment. So that's the principles. And now we can move to really understanding what are the roles that water users and ULBs can play in making this happen within their own locality. So I have summarized it like this. So basically, what would be the role of water users? that it will be their role and responsibility to make sure they become water literate and water accountable. Their role is also to influence the urban design, because once they become literate and once they recognize the importance of how the urban design can be done in a way that is water sensitive, then they need to exercise their influence. And how do they exercise the influence? It could be the fact that they are the ones who are owning a development, or they're buying an apartment. So they should demand water sensitive urban design. So they should demand of their service providers that, or it could be architects or engineers or whoever they are engaging, that we want this to be water sensitive. And that will drive the architects and the engineers to go and find ways to make it water sensitive. So that is their role they can play. They must also take part, they must participate and take ownership, because it is possible to control what is done within your own power of, control of circle of influence. So because of that, unless you participate and you take ownership and you dictate the terms, the new terms, it will not happen. So recognizing your power, that you are not just a water user anymore. Now you have transformed into a water prosumer. In the new system, you are also producing your own water, not just using water. So recognizing that, you should demand that of your service providers. You should demand that of your builder or whoever you are engaging. So that is the role of the water user. And it applies to a big business, an industry, or whoever, right? Then the role of the urban local bodies is that, recognizing that it is all about local, they must engage with, they can engage with water users, to talk about water, consulting them, involving them, so that they become more taking ownership and taking responsibility. They also have a very important role to enable these type of designs through good policies and plans. And I will share some examples, that will indicate how that is possible. So that is their role, because even though it's a local system created by local water users for themselves, it will not happen. It can happen in a bigger way and more superior way if they created a policy that drives that type of action. So that is why it is important that both the urban local bodies and the water users are working in collaboration. So there's also, their role is to collaborate and facilitate the planning and integrated planning of water and the catchment. So now their role has transformed in the decentralized water. The local bodies are now no longer just holding power, but they have become the enabler and facilitator, working with the water users. And now that is the key challenge of, because these are very new ways of doing things. And that is the main challenge of making this decentralized water happen. It is not a technical challenge. We have a lot of technical solutions for all the, recycling and recharging, whatever you call, like at a technical level, there is no barrier. We have plenty of solutions. At a financial level also, these solutions have become very affordable over time. So the only barrier or the challenge we have to work on is recognizing our role as water users and engaging with the local bodies and urban local bodies, recognizing their power, that how much they can impact water, even though water currently is not part of their agenda. It is a water utility that is responsible for the big water schemes. But they don't have to rely on it because it's a local influence. They can leverage the local influence and do something on water. So what I thought I'll do, but before I do that, I want to get into case studies, which shows how a urban local body or a municipality can drive some things in real. These are real case studies, right? And how they have done it. So before I go into the case study, I want to take a pause here and just ask if there are any questions or comments so far from the audience.
Yes, I can see one question that's raised by Pratha. The question is, the catchments in Ahmedabad step wells are mostly redundant now, especially because today they remain within property limits of various people in the city. Shall I repeat? The catchments in Ahmedabad are mostly redundant now, especially because today they remain within property limits of various people in the city. How can they be replenished and used again to recharge the water table?
Right. Got it?
Okay. Pooja, one of the question by Pooja is, decentralization is easier in large cities. The typology includes gated societies, apartment buildings. What about smaller cities with typology that includes majorly bungalow type of houses? So how can these cities work? Yeah, two questions.
So there was a bit of a break in your voice. So decentralized water in apartment. Yep, in apartment. First one I got the catchment part. What's the second one? Decentralized water in apartment.
So she's basically saying that decentralization is easier to do in large cities where typology is mainly gated societies and apartment buildings. But what to do in smaller cities where there are mostly bungalow and plotted developments?
Oh, got it, got it.
Independent housing.
Any others?
Yeah, people can also unmute and ask.
So, any other question?
Yes, I can read one. Aditi has written, if the development has already been done, how can new systems be integrated?
Okay, very nice. Okay, so great. I will take that. Maybe I'll take. So the first one about the catchment being redundant. Okay. Now, see, one thing to bear in mind is, I think when you say redundant, you planning terms or in terms of, it's already been done. You've already developed the catchment. So you have no control over it. But then the thing is, it is possible to retrofit. There's a concept of retrofitting, recreating, rebuilding a catchment. Okay. And that is, the catchment is a catchment. It always remains a catchment because when the rain falls, the water is getting drained from there. So that is what defines a catchment in any way. Physically, you cannot change it. It still is a catchment. You may have built something on it. That's a different thing. But the fact is that it's still a catchment. So the idea is to look at the opportunities to retrofit. And also remember that the catchment has to be looked at in a holistic way. It's not, it could be made up of micro catchments, right? So you can look at, what micro catchments has possibilities to retrofit. And so this is more, comes in the realm of urban local body, but also community groups as a group can also create, retrofit interventions within a micro catchment. So that's something there is still a lot of opportunities, and I will talk to you in the case study. You will see what kind of things are possible. The second question about, it is possible in apartment. No, it's actually the opposite is true. You can do much more within an individual independent house compared to a large apartment complex. And it is possible to retrofit. So I'm also addressing the third question about, yes, designing it in when it is new is the best opportunity, no doubt about it, because you can do much more. But what we are seeing and showing in Bangalore is that you can also retrofit, whether it's an apartment complex, whether it is an independent bungalow or independent house, you can design it in. When it is new, you can also retrofit. So these are the mental barriers in our minds that you cannot do this. No, it's not true. You can retrofit them. And yes, how do you go about identifying the things to retrofit? That is what I have been working in Bangalore for the last 2 years, and have developed a process called the water diagnostics, which allows you to go into a building, any type of building, and take the data and understand what should I do to this building? What should be retrofitted to make it sustainable in water, to make it self-sufficient with respect to water? So that is, so you can, I will be sharing my website details. You can always check out that. So that is, this is very much possible. So I'm glad that people have this false idea in their head that what is not possible or what is possible. So let me tell you, technically, financially, all are possible. So all my efforts currently are focused on making people aware of it, making the practitioners aware of it, making the water users aware of it, so that they can start to move to the next level of let us know how to do it. Okay, that is what we are trying to make it socially viable. The social viability is where we have to work together and make this happen more. Okay, so now I want to move to this case study. So I wanted to start by looking at the city level stuff, because that's the bigger level, and then whatever policy planning a city does, that is what drives what gets designed on the ground. So that's why I want to talk about the design of the water user created the buildings later, because you actually, in order to make that happen at a ground level, you have to start at a policy and planning level. But of course, in Bangalore, when I'm operating and I'm working on my on my program, you can also do this independent of a local policy or a local plan, simply because as a water user, you become literate, you become accountable, and you recognize how important it is to create this system, because it will give me water forever. It will make me water self-sufficient and water secure. So once those early adopters, they don't need a policy or plan to do it. They can do it on their own. But in order for it to happen with scale and with speed, you have to also have a policy at a city level and a plan at a city level. So that's what I'm going to share with you. So before, there is a short video clip I want you to watch. The first video clip, it is just showing short examples of different cities, what they have introduced as a policy or as a plan, which has created, which has made it scaled impact. Okay, that's the first video. And the second video is talking about what Singapore has done. Okay, let us start with the first video. Just a minute. Sorry, 1 minute. Just a minute. Are you able to hear?
It's no longer just polar bears who are feeling the effects of climate change. Fierce storms, unseasonal heat waves, and rising sea levels are starting to affect us all. And yet, people and assets are being concentrated in hazard-prone areas. In 2013, weather and climate-related disasters led to 19,000 deaths and $125 billion of economic losses. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions is a must, but governments, businesses, and communities also need to prepare for a changing climate. But what does this look like in practice? Copenhagen is creating new green spaces and waterways to deal with cloudbursts that can dump 15 centimeters of rain in just 2 hours. This reduces the need for expensive drainage upgrades while providing space for recreation and nature. In Toronto, new large buildings are required to have green roofs. These help to keep the city cool during the summer, with a 5 to 15% reduction in electricity use while keeping buildings warm during the winter. Australia is the driest inhabited continent on Earth, so every drop of water counts. Sydney residents are saving around 19 billion litres of drinking water each year thanks to changes in their behaviour, such as watering their lawns during the evening. In Japan, Yokohama faces the opposite challenge of having too much water. They have built a 70,000-seat stadium on stilts to provide space for excess water to go. Mexico is using nature itself to protect water supplies. Farmers are rewarded for preserving forest cover, helping to protect downstream water supplies while also preserving biodiversity. The OECD supports countries' preparations for climate change by bringing public and private actors together, providing analysis and policy advice for adaptation. Working together, we aim to support smart action to tackle climate change.
So that's small, examples of how through policy the cities have introduced some features which contribute to because climate change adaptation is all about managing water in a way that is not, because climate change is going to create more droughts, is going to create more floods. So it is important that the decentralized water, local water, we understand the implication and we can create these systems in a way that actually reduces the impact of climate change. So now I'm going to move to another video, the second video, which is the 1 minute. Is it now? I'm just pausing to say that please watch it carefully because I'll have some questions for all of you based on this video.
Water is at the heart of who we are and everything we do. We live through water.
I think there's probably some intrinsic, maybe almost primeval bond that human beings have with water.
Quenching our collective thirst is one of the great human and technical challenges of this century. Water analysts predict that worldwide by 2030 we could face a 40% shortfall between the supply and demand.
I think the most important question is what is the role that people can play in urban water management? Many cities are still treating rivers as their junkyard, and it is very challenging environmentally.
Singapore, modern, ambitious and complex, a city-state that's always known that managing water is a case of sink or swim.
Even before we were independent, during the days of the British, we already had to import water from Malaysia. And so from day one of our independence, I think trying to be sure that we could be sustainable with water has always been a strategic priority.
One of those strategies is large-scale recycling. Used water is treated and cleaned to make what's known as new water. It supplies a third of Singapore's needs. The visitor centre next to the new water plant is a key tool to explain why every drop counts.
The most direct way that you can think of is
you have to really, really put it into the education system, that people are learning that water is not something that can easily be obtained. It's not as easy as turning on the tap, and then you go from there.
Making water management a public process is one way to increase awareness. Marina Barrage is an expression of how Singapore's water policy trickles through everyday life. It's an engineering project turned public park.
Initially, the idea was to create a barrage, which is really a flood barrier to prevent the high tide from flooding the lower parts of the city. But with the advent of membrane technology and our ability to be able to clean the water for drinking, the barrage also began to double up as a dam so that we could keep the water as a source of water supply. And then once you've done that, you in fact create a nice recreational lake in the heart of the city.
It's one thing to recycle and conserve water, and another to find fresh supplies. And yet, one source is lapping at our shores.
We are an island, we are surrounded by the sea. I think there are many, many coastal cities in the world that will need to rely on the sea for the source of water.
10% 70% of Singapore's daily supply of water comes from the sea. The flow begins here at Asia's largest desalination plant. Local firms have become specialists in turning salt water to drinking water, and that's become good business.
10 years ago, we used to see only 5-6 desalination plants per year, and right now we are seeing 10 to 20 times that amount per year in terms of proposal, ranging from the traditional Middle East, North Africa region to the USA, to Latin America, to India, to Southeast Asia, as well as, of course, China.
Worldwide, cities are growing, and with that, the need to secure water supplies. And water, whether too little or too much, touches nearly every aspect of urban life.
Singapore is a very dense city, and we will probably continue to grow economically, population. There will always be new challenges and new problems to solve. And I think urbanization and climate change are, I think, two of the biggest ones that confronts us.
We live life through water, and managing it well is the work of a lifetime.
Now you would have to unmute. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm muted. It's thank you. So my question is the last statement that the narrator made, that managing water is the work of a lifetime, especially urban water. Can you all think about that statement and say, why is it that it has to be a work of a lifetime? Why can't we just make a system and just forget about it? Why would it be a lifetime challenge, ongoing? Even the other guy said that it is going to be an ongoing challenge. And this particularly is about the cities. It's always, water is not something you just do and forget. You have to constantly work on it. Why? What is it about the cities that makes water a constant challenge? Yes, growing population, growing demand. Yep, that's right. So that's very good. I mean, you all are urban management people, so you know. So the unique thing about the cities is it is always growing. So that's the reality. So once we have, it is not enough. We always have to keep catering to the new demand that keeps coming, and we have to be prepared to do it in a sustainable way. So that is one. Second question I have is desalination. Okay, would you call it a linear system or a circular system? And why? Is it a linear system or a circular system, and why? Whatever is your answer, you also give a reason.
Ma'am, could you repeat the question one time?
I said the desalination, because they're talking a lot about desalination in Singapore. So, and also there was a statement how desalination is growing across the world. So I want you to reflect on the fact, is desalination a linear system? We talked about linear and circular system. So is it a linear system or a circular system? Yep, someone thinks it's linear. Yep. Okay, and I'm trying to understand the reason that they've given.
I think it's a...
Yeah. Yes, please go ahead. Okay, so yes, you're right that it should be considered a linear system, because ultimately you are simply, so someone said circular system because the water can always be cleaned and released to the oceans. But is it? Does the system do that? It doesn't. It actually treats and it creates a lot of reject water. But other than that, not just in terms of the quantity, but circular because the water is made potable, but again, it falls back to the system. So it falls back to the system in what quantity though? So it's not about that it has to go back to the original source. That doesn't make things circular. Circular is about how many times are you using that water. That's what makes a system circular. It is not about putting it back in the river. No, it may not be put back in the river. You may draw it from whatever source, but the idea is to make multiple uses before it is put away, or you are putting it to another use, or recycling it within the same. You created a system which continuously recycles for that particular end use. So it is not about going back to the original. It's not about that. Circular is not about putting it back to the original. Because, and secondly, it is a very highly unsustainable system. Remember that it uses a lot of energy. Even a rich country like Singapore, they are using only 10% of their demand is desalinated water. Why? Because it is extremely expensive. Because often in the conversations, people think desalination can solve the problem. It may solve to an extent at the coastal because you don't have a transportation cost. But for the rest of the country, it is a highly unsustainable solution to think that we can treat seawater and truck it to the cities. That is not at all a viable and a sustainable solution. It is linear and it is very high energy, intense, system. Okay, so I just wanted you to know that, because this is often comes up as a discussion point whenever people are talking about water security. So now let me move to the next thing quickly to talk about the presentation. Okay, so now I want to talk to you about the city of Sydney, where I personally was involved in this work, where we developed it is one of the only master plans in the entire world, which is a decentralized water, because all the water plans in the world are by a water utility, which just, planning for water pipes and pumps and sewage treatment plants. But city of Sydney was one of the first municipalities which wanted to look at what are the opportunities that as a municipality, as an urban local body we have for investing in projects that will create water on our own and reduce our dependency on the Sydney Water is the water utility, their centralized water system. So again, I have a short video I want to show, please bear with me, that describes what that master plan created, and then I'll talk about the experience. Where are we? So I have to go here, then here. It's a short video clip, so just 1.5 minutes. Sorry.
We're creating a smarter, more sustainable city. Water is one of our most valuable resources, but we use drinking quality water for things that don't really need it. While stormwater and the water from our showers, washing machines and basins goes down the drain, wasted. That's why we're planning a decentralized water system. This includes a local, recycled water system alongside our current water network. This local water will be treated and then distributed using a separate purple pipe. It'll be used for non-drinking purposes only, like watering gardens and parks and flushing wounds. By using treated and filtered recycled water, we could help supply the city of Sydney's non-drinking water.
I'm very sorry, let me fix this. I'm so sorry.
We're creating a smarter, more sustainable Sydney. Water is one of our most valuable resources, but we use drinking quality water for things that don't really need it. While stormwater and the water from our showers, washing machines and basins goes down the drain, wasted. That's why we're planning a decentralised water system. This includes a local, recycled water system alongside our current water network. This local water will be treated and then distributed using a separate purple pipe. It'll be used for non-drinking purposes only, like watering gardens and parks and flushing loos. By using treated and filtered recycled water, we could help supply the City of Sydney's non-drinking water needs, leaving our drinking water for drinking. In 2010, Austin, Texas saved more than 7 billion litres of water through the use of reclaimed water. And Singapore has one of the largest water recycling plants in the world, where it's an actual tourist attraction. Recycling water will help us preserve our precious drinking water. And by introducing innovations like rain gardens in our parks and streets, we'll also reduce the pollution going into our waterways, adding to the water-saving actions we're already doing. Creating a sustainable Sydney 2030, a green, global and connected city. We're creating a smarter, more sustainable Sydney.
Please unmute. Dr. Bhakti, you are on mute. We cannot hear you, Dr. Bhakti. You're not audible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't see my mic. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I was trying to look for the mic to make it, So.
Yes. You are back.
Now I'll go back to thank you. So that was showing this a summary of what was involved, but I'll just take you to a quick, give you a quick idea of what did it actually mean in doing terms. What did we have to do behind the scene to create those opportunities? So first of all, I want to give you a quick context of why they did it. And I'm noting the time here, it is 5:20. So we have up to 5:30. Is that right, Professor Shelley?
Yes. And then we'll have some question answers. Yes, till 5:30 and we'll have 5:30, yes.
Okay.
And then we'll have some question
answers. So I can finish at 5:30?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So just a quick context, why did the city want a decentralized water strategy? So it was because they had just come out of a 10-year long drought cycle. They had restricted, during the drought, they always were restricting garden, watering of gardens and all. So that is always creates, they're not able to play sports. So that was creating a lot of, unhappiness, discontentment among the community, and they wanted to, when the mayor of the Sydney, she has very green, she was very bold and green lady who won the election second time. So she consulted the community and they said that we want to create local water, local energy systems. So that was what drove them to call for someone to lead the decentralized water master plan to show the city how can we create a roadmap for creating these projects. So now how did we go about doing it? So what we had to do is, as I said, taking a catchment approach. We had to look at the entire city of Sydney to see how much rainfall is falling, where are the micro catchments, and look at how the water is flowing. So take account of water in terms of what water is coming by pipe, what is coming by rain, how much is flowing away, and that becomes your starting point. And then we also map on a local level, we map issues and opportunities. What does that mean? So that's a water balance, just to say the theoretical part. So it should have come first. So the mapping of the issues, first we do a mapping of the problems by each micro or subcatchment. We try and understand where are the water supply deficit within that, within each subcatchment. What is the level of where are the high water users located, and where is the leakage more happening than others. So we map it out on physically, and what are the problems in sewage. Sewage may have overflows. Some may have, areas, that are not covered by the sewerage system. So all that we try and map it out. And also, if there's a local water body that's getting polluted water, we show that on the map. We show the stormwater problems, any flooding hotspots, any, areas that are getting more blocked, the drainage that gets blocked more than some others. So we try to map all these sediments. All these things are mapped, and also we show the growth where all it's expected to happen in the next few years, because that's a challenge that, we have to meet the water demand for the growth. So once we have mapped all the problems, then we also start to map the opportunities. So what that also means is wherever there is inefficient use, we have mapped it as a problem, and now that is telling us here's our opportunity to do a program where we want to help them reduce, become more efficient. Right? We can supply non-potable demand because they're using a lot of fresh water. So we can look at the opportunity by sewage by saying, okay, if there is a lot of overflow that is happening in that spot, that's an opportunity for us to actually harness that sewage, turn it into recycled water and supply it. So that will also solve the problem of overflow, and that will also provide us non-potable water. So this is how we map the issue and also identify the opportunities. And in real terms, this is how it looked like. So we had different layers of the same city of Sydney map showing, different aspect of the issue or the challenge. And then once we put them all together, it starts to show where all the hotspots may be coming together, or, so some opportunity may be identified because of the hotspot. So this allows us to know what issues can be combined, and therefore one solution can be meeting multiple objectives. So that is one of the very important method we have to use of mapping. And so in the end, when we do all that mapping and we also quantify these issues, we quantify the opportunity, and we were able to get a good idea about, where are these local water supply. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to see what is the availability of local water in the form of sewage, grey water, all types of water at a local level, and how much they are available and where are they available, and then map also the demand that is there across the catchment to say, okay, we have some demand over here, and now we can start to match the demand and the water that is available, either using multiple sources or using one single source. But it starts to give you a clear idea about where are these opportunities in a quantified way. Initially, we did it by area, then you quantify them, and you're starting to get more precise idea of the projects that can come out of it. So basically at the end of the master plan, what were we really doing? Before the master plan, decentralized water, our mains water demand, or the water supplied by Sydney Water, is 42 gigaliters a year across the city. So because of the decentralized water, we were able to reduce our reliance of 42 to 28.4. That's a significant reduction for a city scale. And also we were able to increase the uptake of the recycled water from 2 gigaliters a year to 12 gigaliters a year. So that is just to show you that how it translates into a real outcome. And that is because that is creating more circular systems, is also reducing the demand as well as reducing the need for water from the pipe supply. So that is an example of a city that took upon itself that we want to create a policy and plan to identify opportunities where we can reduce the demand, where we can. So I want to show you now. So that was just a plan, right? Now here, let me just stop this and open a new screen where I'll show you how these what programs came out of that plan. Because you planned it, they were able to create programs, invest in programs such as, one minute. Okay, so I want you to look at this page, 1 minute, not yet, this page. So I've got a little thumbnails of each program that, soon after the master plan, we created, for example, a program where, are you able to read this? I put a cursor saying award-winning rain garden integration program. Can you see this? Is everyone muted? That's why I can't.
Yeah, we can see it.
So this is an example that what we identified in that master plan was the fact that if we integrated rain gardens are a unique garden that actually takes stormwater in it when it rains, and we design it along the curb and along the roadside area. And if we integrate it with every renewal, road renewal they do, then we are able to reduce pollution to the river by so much. So once we identified that opportunity in the plan, now that is a live program. It is an ongoing program that every time they do renewal, they integrate rain garden in the city. Another program example is this program, the award-winning water efficiency program for business. So we identified where are the high inefficient water using businesses, and the City of Sydney was able to invest money in helping them identify the areas of inefficiency by doing creating an audit program, and also helping them in installing those systems where to make it water efficient. So that came out of the master plan, right? And also another program called the Smart Green Business Program also came out of the master plan. That it identified exactly which type of businesses need help of the city to become more water efficient and more water smart. Then another example of the project coming out of the master plan was a large stormwater harvesting scheme. There was an opportunity to harvest a lot of stormwater within the City of Sydney area, and create a very large supply of non-potable water out of that stormwater and supply it to a new development, a redevelopment, that brownfield development that was happening. So that stormwater harvesting scheme was quite large, and we were able to actually win some funding from a central government, federal government, who were giving away funding for local municipalities. So this was another opportunities we identified because of the master plan. And so what I'm trying to say is that this is why a plan by a city, by urban local body, can start to create these at a much bigger scale. And policy and more policies came out of the plan, that they created a policy that every renewal program must integrate a water sensitive rain garden in their project. So that became a norm. So this is an example, and I just want to show you the latest document, which is every year they do a state of environment report, and here's 2018-19 report, and they report on how they're going on based on that plan 2030. That plan was for 2030. So even though I have now left the city and I've moved out of the City of Sydney in 2013, I left the City of Sydney in 2013. 2009 we created around that. So now the program is still going on, because now what you've done is you've embedded the entire thing into the city. And now those things keep happening. Now see, the Green Square water reuse was identified as an opportunity in the plan. And now today they've reported that this has been completed. 2018, while I was here, the Green Square Town Centre water reuse project was completed and switched on. Recycled water can now be delivered to residential customers and council properties, such as the library, for toilet flushing, clothes washing. So we had identified that in the plan, and now they have a roadmap. The city has a roadmap that one by one they can take each project and implement it and achieve the final outcome. So this is a way the policy and planning can be very powerful in creating that big change within the city. So moving now to in a very short time, I'll quickly go through the what happens at an individual building level once a city has created a policy, or regardless of city creating a policy or plan. As I said, water users can be proactively designing their properties or demanding properties to be water sensitive. So I want to show you that, and then we'll close the presentation. Okay, so let me go back to my presentation. So you saw what is possible at a city level. Now let us see what we can do at a individual building level. Okay, so what I call it is water user-led water sensitive urban design. And these case studies that I'm showing, they did not rely on a policy or a plan or a regulation by a local body. As I said, it is possible to do despite of that, regardless of whether there's a policy. But yes, if everyone needs to do it, then we should have a policy. So this is to show you what it looks like. I'll skip the video. I don't need to show you the video, or maybe I'll show you the video. Actually, that's quite good. It's a short video. Oh, mute the. Let me just mute my mic.
Our cities and towns have often evolved around a river or coastline, and water is integral to their identity and appeal. Yet it is often not a priority in the design of the places in which we live, work and play. By hiding our water systems underground, we are missing out on the wider environmental and aesthetic benefits of managing water on or near the surface. To make the most of water, we must connect water management with making good places. Our approach to better water management is called water-sensitive urban design. It's a way of integrating the water cycle with the built environment through good planning. Water-sensitive urban design brings all of the elements of the water cycle together: supply and demand, wastewater, rainfall and its runoff, as well as its contribution to local character, environment and community. With this approach, we improve quality of life, while also addressing flooding, pollution, and water scarcity issues, changing water from a potential nuisance into a valuable resource. Water-sensitive urban design can be applied at every scale, from the design of our homes to strategic planning of large cities and towns. But how does it work? On a simple level, instead of letting water from the sink run away down the drain, we could use it to water our gardens or flush our toilets. If we used permeable surfaces instead of standard paving and introduced sustainable drainage systems, we would relieve pressure on our sewers and could reduce pollution and downstream flooding, as well as improve urban ecology, cooling, amenity and property value. Installing green roofs reduces runoff and provides urban habitat. Any excess roof water can be directed to a rain garden to retain the rain to let the plants grow. More and healthier street trees will be naturally watered by runoff if we design tree pits to drain roads. In commercial areas, large amounts of rainwater could be harvested from roofs and car parks, naturally filtered and stored to flush toilets and supply car washes or other industrial processes and keep businesses operating, despite a hosepipe ban. Even a city environment dominated by paving and concrete can be shaped to harvest runoff from paved surfaces and collect wastewater from our buildings to provide local supplies of recycled water. Prime development land is sought after in areas near streams, rivers and coastlines that may flood, so it is crucial to design new developments that can accommodate and direct floodwater using strategic open spaces and corridors to minimize damage to valuable infrastructure and homes. Water-sensitive urban design reduces water pollution, decreases flood risk, gives greater security of water supply, improves ecosystem health, helps communities connect with water, eases the urban heat island effect, and brings together disciplines to create attractive and intelligent urban environments. We believe that water-sensitive urban design should be an essential component of delivering sustainable developments, which are beautiful, successful, and resilient. Start delivering water-sensitive urban design. Connect the water cycle. collaborate with other disciplines and partners, and create great places. Visit the Water Sensitive Urban Design.
Please unmute. No, still can't hear you.
No, I know, because I have to switch the screen to unmute. That's why it takes a little time. So yeah, so now have unmuted. So yeah, that was a good summary about that. It's all about looking at your urban design and making it such that you're retaining, slowing down the water, recycling, recovering, recharging, etc. Okay, so now I want to just show you some examples of buildings in Bangalore, not far, not overseas, but within Bangalore, who incorporate these type of thinking, and they are not new. They have been existing for last 20 years or so. Okay, so just wanted to show you those examples. So it's not just theory. So for example, you might have heard this. It's a very popular example of one of the environmental engineers in Bangalore. He has created a system of water in his building in a way that he doesn't need any municipal water. And someone was asking about independent bungalows doing it. Here it is. Here's an example. So they harvest the entire water that falls on their roof, and they are able to recharge as well as make use of it without having to pay anything or taking any water from the pipe supply. This is another apartment building example. So people sometimes think only small buildings can do. Some people think only big buildings can do. But look at this. They have existed 20 years ago. It was built. 100% water, no water coming from outside. They are entirely, the buildings near this building, which has come up in the 20 years, they are buying tanker waters. But this building is standing tall, has not, it is entirely self-sufficient. Okay. Then another example, same builder who has built this. Another example of TZ in Whitefield is a famous, Whitefield area in Bangalore is famous for water shortage. And there it stands without needing to buy tanker water. Right? And that why is it there so? Because they've been designed to be water sensitive. And therefore they become automatically water self-sufficient. And why we can see the proof that it is sustainable because they have been standing like this for last 20 years or so, right? So this is another one. So this is another builder. This is a second builder who also does water sensitive urban design. And again, it's an apartment complex, not just an individual house, built in 2015, entirely, not requiring water from outside. Another low density house. So yeah, so this I'll just share when I share the presentation, you can watch the video. It is talking about the residents of the TZ, showing how they manage their water. So I think this is where I wanted to close. Yeah, it has run a little over time, but yeah, I think because we had a bit of interaction. So yes, I'm thank you for, if you need any more information, you can contact me on that email address. You can also visit the website, so you can note down the contact details. Also, I want to let you all know that at Urban Water Doctor, we have identified a whole range of research topics, small research topics. If anybody is interested, we can share with you all. If you're looking for a research project, I'll be happy to share with Professor Shelley so that she can, help share it to the other students, whoever is looking for a student project. So yeah, and also we have training programs on, for architects and urban planners on how to do water sensitive urban design. We have training for, people how to diagnose a building and make it water self-sufficient. So you can check out the website for all those information. So thank you, Professor Shelley. I hand it over to you.
Yeah, that's a very useful and interactive session, Dr. Bhakti. We'd like to take some questions. Yes?
Sure.
So whoever wants to who has a question, please go unmute or you can type in.
Yeah.
Prasad, is this question unanswered? Okay, I'll just read out the question. The major setback in reusing treated water in India is the state of mind people have about reusing shit water for non-drinking purpose. How does one overcome this issue in changing the mindset of people?
Yeah, very, very good question. And as I said, this problem is no longer a technical or a financial problem. It is more a socializing problem or a challenge. Not a problem, but a challenge. So what happens is if you start to get people engaged, and that's why Urban Water Doctor, we put a lot of stress on water literacy. We have created water literacy training modules where we are training facilitators who can, help people understand problems with the current water and then help them move to that allows them then to understand why they have to shift. Because if you only give people solution, there's a tendency that we preach solutions. We often preach solutions, we prescribe solutions. We never really take time to understand what the problem has been and acknowledge it. And only when you do that, it allows people to take that information in, reflect on it, and then come to an understanding. And therefore, they are now more ready to accept some new innovations and new way of doing things. You cannot expect people to take on new ways without, taking them through a journey of understanding. So it is a matter of, so that's why the water literacy modules have been created in a way that they actually help people to go on that journey of understanding. That's very important. And we should never underestimate the time it will take. We should never underestimate the effort it requires. So if we can work on that, everything else is actually pretty simple. Once people have understood we need to do this, I tell people that it only takes 2 to 3 months to implement the solutions. It is not at all a problem. The more, therefore, it is worth spending a good amount of time talking and helping people come to an understanding in the way that, they understand the problem and the reason why they need to shift and what should be the way of shifting. So that's my response. It is not easy, but it has to be done. It is very important to do. And to give you an example, that TZ apartment that I showed, they are using water for drinking purpose. They have recycled it to such high quality that initially only 80% of them decided that they will drink. The 20% were still using for non-potable, but for not drinking. Over time, they also moved to drinking simply because people are buying tanker water. Do you know where the tanker water comes from? We don't. We just assume that they must be coming from a clean place. Even the bottled water, we don't know where it comes from, but we drink it. So once you know exactly what's happening in your own premise, that the water is actually being cleaned in a proper way, then you actually develop more trust. And it's a proper example of people actually forget non-potable, now they're drinking water. So it is all only many of this thing is changing as we speak. So don't assume that things are set. Things are constantly moving and changing in the community. So take the time to actually confirm, is that assumption that you're making, how correct is it? And if it is correct, then let's work on it.
Yeah, very true. So there's a change, there's a shift required in the mindset, and that probably more people like you who are working in this sector, educating people, that can bring about this change. Yeah. I'll take a second question. Vidya has sent this. There are many PPPs, public-private partnerships, which involve treating the municipal wastewater and use the clean water, or even sell it. Do you think government can bring incentives to promote these type of PPPs?
Yes, I mean, as you say, PPPs are already happening. So that is fine, because what I said is the circular system is possible at a city scale. So if a city decides to do, they are going into PPPs and doing it at a large scale, which is also no problem. But in terms of, I would say the cities, the municipalities need to give incentive to the individual property owners to create their own system, so that there's pressure on the current system reduces. Because the current system is always struggling to cope with the population. What if most of the existing buildings went off the system or reduced their uptake of water from the system by creating their own circular system. So if that is going to help them, if that is going to help the water utility or the municipality, then those agencies should be offering incentives and help in some form to let people invest in their own water system. So it's not about PPP. PPP is already happening. That doesn't need incentive. What needs incentive is incentive to be given to individual property owners to retrofit their properties to become water self-sufficient, because that is going to reduce the burden on the current system.
So just a curiosity about what type of financials it requires, the investment.
Okay. So as I said, it has actually become very affordable. So of course, it varies with each building, but in terms of investment, let's say it will range anywhere from 5,000 rupees to if it is a very complex, like recycled water for which will supply you water forever, which means you don't need to buy water anywhere from outside forever. So that's like, it may go up to 30,000 rupees per person within a complex. I'm talking about, like, if you divide the cost in a complex, it will be some solutions will be as small as like 1,000 rupees per flat or per family, and it may go up to 20 to 30,000 per family within a complex. So we are not talking very high cost solutions, because why? Because the price of water is also increasing, and therefore the return on investment is now being reduced to 6 months to 3 months to about 2 years. So it's not a big cost. Cost-wise, it's not a lot. But yes, in terms of incentives, what government could do is to help them pay for the diagnostic, which requires them to customize the solution, because you have to pay some money to understand, which is not again a lot of money, but that will encourage them to at least do the diagnostics, understand what solutions they need to build for their building, because every building needs a different solution, different set of solution. So municipalities could provide them a helping hand in creating that solution plan for them, so that they know exactly what to make and what to invest in.
Yeah, thank you. One more I'd like to take. What steps were taken to manage illegal drawing municipal supply of water by slum and pavement dwellers in Singapore? Pratha is asking this.
Mm-hmm. So did you ask what they did, what Singapore government did
steps,
to...
what Singapore did to manage the illegal drawing of municipal supply of water by slums and pavement dwellers? Was there any illegal supply?
I doubt if there was any, because Singapore is pretty strict government. It's quite an autocratic government. They are able to put big fines. Their way of working is they put a big fine, so people then steal if they're caught. I mean, and they make sure they are like monitoring. And if someone is caught, they just charge a large fine, and that disincentivizes people from not doing things based on what they've been doing on other issues, because their approach is just fine people, and then people will stop. But that works in Singapore. In our context, I think, while the low-income groups may be stealing water from the current system, I think there is a lot more effort actually needs to be done on making water efficiency. So yeah, the poor people, if they're not getting water, they have to take water. It's not, yes, it is an unaccountable water, but a large part of that unaccounted water or non-revenue water is actually also leakage within the system. And what is not captured in that NRW is the water inefficiency with the people. As I showed you in that first graph, the red and black bars, there's so much scope to save that water. Why are we worried about the poor people using the water? Let us focus on what is the water efficiency improvement can happen within people who are being supplied with water. That is my view.
Ma'am, actually, on the field, we when we studied the water supply system, a lot of leakages happen because of this illegal drawing. So people they make a hole, they break the
Yeah.
pipeline, and they draw water, and they just fill that hole up again, and so the next time when the water is being supplied, because of those punctures in the
Sure.
in the system, that leads to leakages. So ultimately it
Yeah.
forms a part of the entire leakage issue.
Absolutely. So this is a typical problem with the centralized large system. It is very hard to monitor. So this is another thing that I think we as water users, we need to focus more on what we can do within our control, because the municipalities and the utilities that are managing these large systems, it has become too unwieldy. Even in the smart cities, they are creating a very sophisticated process to detect leaks. Okay, it's great we can detect leaks, but there is no way you can fix them. So what are we going to do? So that is why we have to acknowledge that the system has become so large that it is impossible to manage and fix things that are going wrong with that old system. So let us put our energy and attention to things we can change, we can improve, because and especially because that is this business as usual in every single city, not just in India, but across the world. It is the same system. So people assume that actually that is nothing wrong with it, but actually that is the problem. Let us acknowledge, we are not trying to, as I said, we are not trying to create an activist movement here, but I'm saying that let us be very clear and understand and acknowledge that it is a 100+ year old system. They will keep harping on it by doing research on how much NRW, how much leakage, how much theft. Yeah, you did it, but what is the solution? Are you able to solve it? No, that is a reality. Reality is that we cannot solve it. That is how big the system has become. So how long are we going to keep studying that system? It is better we shift our focus and say, and of course, the utilities do not have the capacity to change that because they are already invested in it. If you are an employee of a water utility, you will be only talking about those problems, and you will try to find a solution, or you'll use it as an excuse because you can't solve it. What you are doing now, you're using it as an excuse to say why there's a water shortage. That is all you can do as a utility. So I'm saying, let us be very clear. These centralized systems are out of date. They are expiring. They're dying. So are we going to look at the dying and help them recover and give oxygen, or let us create a new system as we speak and let the community transition out of the old system? That will also help the old system, because if you're taking the burden off the old system, you are helping the old system anyway. So by doing the decentralized water, you're actually helping centralized water, because it cannot be changed at all. You can't. The sewers are all underground. The water pipes are underground. The leakage is somewhere underground. City has been built over. How are we going to fix the leakage? Even sophisticated developed countries, they are not able to fix leakages. They have to employ such sophisticated measures, very expensive measures, to even detect and then fix them. And what about India? We don't have the resource to even recover the normal cost of running a water utility. The price they charge with water is so low that it doesn't cover the cost at all. So they have so many issues going on because it's an old system they want to stuck to. So let us put our energy and our effort on decentralized. As younger generation, let me tell you that you should not even have any hopes. Do not pin your hopes on a current centralized system. It is dying. Nobody is going to admit because everyone is the same. So people think that's normal, right? Everyone is going through the same issue, so we think it's normal. When I'm saying that it is not normal, it is just, let us know that it's a dying system, but there is an alternative. And that alternative cannot be done by the existing establishment because it's very different to what they are used to. It's a resistance, mindset resistance. They cannot, and why we should be doing it as users? Because it benefits us. We don't need government help. Until a proactive municipality wants to support, we can still keep doing, as users can still keep creating these circular systems at a local level. And at some point, some municipalities will have a proactive leader who will then create a policy and plan to scale. That is the way things will happen in the future, I believe.
So one very useful points. One question from my side. So as whom should we approach if the urban local body is not taking the initiative? So whom should we approach first? Is it the developers? Is it the common people? Yes.
So that was a question I had to ask when I decided that I'm going to come to India, and I had no professional connections, but I'm going to start doing this as a mission. So what was the answer that I got to myself is that go to the water users. Water users within their own influence, control of influence and power, whatever the area they are able to influence, you can create a local circular system there. So work with the water user directly. That's what I've been doing. So water user is your go-to point, because it is possible for any water user, once they decide that I want to create a local water circular system, it is technically doable, financially doable. So all we need is to show. That is one, going to the water user. Secondly, because water user is the one who's going to engage the architects. So first inform the water user that what they should demand the architect. Because every time I have spoken to architects, their complaint is that the owner has told them this. But if the owner is not aware enough, it is the job of the architect to inform and to educate the owner or the client. So we also need to talk to architects to let them know that this is possible, to show the possibilities. We should also be talking to the developers. But of course, when you want to prioritize which developer, you want to talk to people who do want to move to a more sustainable development. We also want to talk to the urban local bodies. If a planner, if a commissioner is willing to sit down and understand what is the influence they have and the impact they can have on the local water, without having to wait for their funding turn with the state government. Because currently every city waits for its turn to be funded by the state government to put in a pipe, to put in a water supply per pipe. They can wait. But while they're waiting, they can do so much more within their own city. So you can easily engage with the water users, the architects and the developers who are going to sell to the water users, as well as the urban local bodies. These are the 4 key players, and out of these 4 key players, water users are the most important players, because they can be demanding things. Then the architects have to do it. Developers have to do it.
Yes, definitely. And so connecting with your initial lines, become water literate and water accountable. I think that's the key mantra to take forward, and that's going to change our lives.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
That is so important, and you all are welcome to look at the various training that we have, because we need the reason you mentioned the experts like us are talking, yes, but it is not enough. So what we are doing is we are empowering all these young people to learn about it and go and spread that water literacy and water accountability message. That and doing it in practice. It's not just talking. We are also showing them how to do, how to become in practical way. Yeah.
Yes. Those case studies were like very eye-opening and good to see them. I would also request you to, any more questions? I think we have exceeded the time. So any more questions, please get in touch with Dr. Bhakti. And it's been a very useful session and very interactive also. So we would like to have a group picture. So in a virtual environment also, let's do that.
Okay.
Everybody please switch on your videos and we can have one.
Sure.
Jyoti, who can take the picture? Like, how do we take it?
Print screen, maybe?
1 minute.
Yeah, use the print screen on the laptop if you have. I think
1
that's
minute. I think
few people are yet to open their cameras.
yes. I don't see many online. Their videos are not there. Jyoti, Riya, Pooja, Rishabh.
Ma'am, I'm here.
Yeah.
No,
Ma'am, I think only a certain amount fits on a screen, so you can see probably.
Pooja, Rishabh, Ayushi, Shantanu, Akanksha, Ayushi, Apurva.
Yeah, now we have all videos, so you can take.
Jyoti, you can? You have taken?
I'm not able to see anybody.
Oh, no, but I think I have got some.
Ma'am, I have taken 2-3 shots.
Okay, great. Yes. Yes. Dr. Gayatri, any notes? And thank you again, Dr. Bhakti, for taking out this time. It is a very useful session, and I hope this is the start, which we all, the water user literacy campaign for all of us to take on. Yes, in our own areas and own societies, and something to do. And get help of experts like you if we face a problem. Yes.
So, I'll share with you a webinar-based training I'm doing on helping people take account of their own building during this lockdown. You can do it online. There's an online session I'm doing on webinar. So I'll share with you that. You can please forward to your students if they're interested in taking it up.
Sure. Okay, so
Thank you.
We can end the session. Yes, people are also typing in. Yeah, so they found it useful. And
I forgot. Can I send an evaluation form which you can get them to fill in?
Sure.
Yeah.